Welcome back to Mud Lake Ranch. Today we're here with one of the most popular rifles in all the world. And chances are you own one, and you're probably here to see how to clean this thing if you're having issues with it feeding or if you're having, carbon foul buildup. Um, Before we get started, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. And if you've been watching for a while and you haven't subscribed yet, take the time to do so right now. And if you like this video when it's done and if you find it useful, be sure to hit the thumbs up and comment if you have any other questions or anything else you want to know about the Ruger 1022. First, we're going to get started with some shooting. We have targets at 50, 100, and 150. All are steel. And then we'll get into cleaning. We're going to do a complete takedown. So you can clean at the range using a ripcord. It's a pull-through, breech-to-muzzle cleaning system. You can clean while the barrel's hot. But sometimes that's not enough to get the gun back to firing condition if it's gummed up inside the action. Reason we clean breech to muzzle is you're pulling the garbage carbon fouling away from your action. You don't want to be driving a solid rod with a brush and a patch and etc. back into the action of this thing if you're already having issues. You could spray it out with something like a quick scrub, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a complete teardown, removing these screws, taking out the trigger group, taking off the barrel, and you'll see that there's actually a way to clean this with a rod from the rear. There's a hole in the back so you can fit your rod through, or you can clean breech to muzzle using something like the Otis Tactical Cleaning Kit, which is a cable cleaning system, which I prefer to use. It's more compact, allows you to throw it right into your range bag. All right, let's fire some rounds down range and get this thing dirtied up. All right, that one was at 50. Now we're going to try at a longer distance. We're going to go out. I'm going to jump right to the 150 just to see if we can make things happen here. I am going to aim, maybe a foot above it. Did it? All right, that was 4 feet above it. Looks like I'm out. This extended magazine release here is an aftermarket thing. It's very handy versus having to stuff your finger up inside the button that it comes with. Pretty easy to install as well. I have it on my 22, and this is a loaner from a friend who needed theirs cleaned. So let's get into cleaning. All right, it's a couple days after we shot, and a few things we noticed from the video, or after the video, is the scope is actually a little loose on its mount. The actual rail here, the screws are loose, so we were lucky to hit any targets with the firearm that we're using. The reason it was brought to me is the owner said that the firearm was jamming frequently and believed it needed to be cleaned. With new ammo, I had no issues, so the actual reason it wasn't functioning properly was most likely ammo, but the gun is old. I remember shooting this with him over 20 years ago. Thousands of rounds of ammo have been run through this gun. So we are going to take it apart and clean it, so stay tuned for that. If you would like to support the channel, Mud Lake Ranch gear is available on the shop on YouTube. Just click the link, shop link on our channel, or if you're on a desktop, maybe a mobile, the products are directly below each video. So if you want to support the channel, do that, or I'll leave a link to all the products that I use in this video in the description below, and you can shop those. I am an Amazon affiliate, so I earn a small commission off purchases made through those links. All right, let's get started. That box you saw there was the Elite Range box by Otis Technology. It's perfect for cleaning at the range, can also be used for stabilization while shooting. It comes with an AR mag block, so you can work on an AR-15 as well. For this video, it's going to be a little bit easier for me to work directly on a table where I have to disassemble this firearm. A few things we noticed at the range after we got back was this scope mount, where it mounts to the base, is loose. So no fault of ours if we missed any targets, but if you're familiar with any kind of shooting, occasionally if it sets calmly and you're pulling the trigger softly, you'll still hit the target. So we'll tighten these up for them when we're done. The first step to disassembly of this firearm is to ensure that it's safe. Safety's on. Firearm is unloaded. There's no mag in the mag well. Visually and manually inspect that there's nothing in the firearm. And then you're going to unscrew this single screw here. You're going to pivot the safety to right in the middle. Otherwise, it won't fit out of the wood stock, and then it will pivot right out of here. Tools you're going to need for this process are going to be a screwdriver that is designed to fit this flathead screw. You're going to need a CLP or a bore cleaner. I have MC7 bore cleaner positioned there in front of me, and FP10 CLP from Shooter's Choice. CLP can be used for bore cleaning as well. It also is a lubricant. And then we have dry lube, which I'll use in the trigger group. And this FP10 lubricant elite that I can spray on that and then wipe it down as well. So I've got the screw undone. If you're first time doing this, it is captured, so it will not fall out. Again, position your safety so that it's kind of halfway safe, halfway on. And then you rock the front of the barrel up and your trigger out. I'm going to set the stock aside. We can finish up cleaning that right when we're done with this video. There are 3 pins you're going to remove. Here, here, and this bigger one here. These 2 lower ones capture the trigger group. This rear pin actually doesn't hold anything, but you need it removed to be able to pull the bolt carrier group all the way back. You can use a brass pin punch. I didn't bring any brass punches down with me, but I have a steel punch out of my Elite Range box, and I have an obstruction remover on the back side of it that we can hammer on, and I can also drive this larger pin out. Remove the pins the direction that the shell casings eject. So they're going to come out the right side, and I like to position them someplace where I have them in the order they went in. I don't know if it matters, but for me, I like to have things the way they came. You're going to grab a precision hammer, which I left at the house, and ideally you'll have a bench block, which I also left at the house. We'll get these started. First time they come out, they'll come out fairly difficult, but after that, they'll come out fairly easily. So this is the rear one, this is the front one. I'll clean these up a bit before we reinsert them, and that's the far back one up top here. So that come out of here. Trigger group will come right out of there. We'll spray this out with some quick scrub. That'll remove any grime, debris, any carbon that happened to make its way into the trigger group. You're not going to want to oil that too much. If you're inside, this is you're going to want to be in a ventilated area. I am outside because it's nice out. And this will bring it back almost to bare metal. It does evaporate fairly quickly as well, so you won't have to worry about your cloths remaining wet.
We're going to wipe this down with CLP once we're complete. But that will blast most of the carbon and debris out of your trigger group. We're going to set that aside while the internal's dry. We're going to remove the bolt now. To remove your bolt, you're going to pull the charging handle, or charging handle, sure, all the way back. You're going to rock the bolt carrier all the way up. You rock the front up and it comes out. And for demonstration purposes, this is up. You'll notice this notch here. You'll see a notch in your barrel where that lines up when it drives home. And you're going to take out your spring and charging handle. We'll spray those down as well. So now this is completely empty. So if you were to clean with a rod, you could push stuff back into here and not have an issue with contamination. You're going to clean the barrel first in that case. We're going to be going breech to muzzle, so we'll be pulling everything out. So I'm going to blast this thing now. And we're going to get in there with an AP brush. This is an all-purpose brush. Comes with two different sides. This side's more aggressive, shorter bristles. This side's wider for broader areas. All right. Move that. Get there with our cloth. I'm going to blast this area. So if it's removed down to bare metal, you need to protect it. Right now, there's nothing in there to protect it from rust and corrosion because we removed any oil. So we're going to use the FP10 CLP Elite in an aerosol form. You can use it in the bottle form or and just rub it in there with a patch or with a cloth, but we're going to use this for now. Let that sit for a moment. I'm going to work on the bolt. Get this all shiny. This is pretty gross. 22 ammo runs very dirty, as most of you know. You ever get a panic moment partially through a video wondering if you ever hit record? I kind of got that now, so I'm going to step up and make sure that we're actually filming. It would suck to get through this whole process and realize we're not recording. See, I'm applying this very liberally. If you choose to wear gloves, you can. I don't choose to. Now, if you were going to make any alterations, improvements to your firearm, this is when you would have an opportunity to replace your hammer spring, your trigger spring, and your recoil spring. I bought a spring kit. It's not going to go on this gun. It's going to go on my personal firearm. I don't know if I need it. I just have it on hand and ready to rock when that goes. So I'm going to wipe this down. Again, there's this is moving parts and friction areas, so I'm going to blast this with some CLP. This is a stainless piece, so it's not going to pick up the corrosion, but it is rubbing its other steel parts that are moving around quite a bit. Let's check the trigger group here. This is close to dry, so there is optics cleaning options from Otis as well. So if you're doing a deep clean, you might as well do your optics. I'm not going to do it for the purposes of this video, but I'll link to the products in the description as well. Now we're going to move on to cleaning the barrel. We're going to use the limited breech fixed and slotted tip. You could use a standard 22 cal slotted tip and because we have it disassembled. This is intended so you can clean it while it's assembled. This one will fit through the ejection port of these tiny little 22 cal rifles. So we're going to run a little MC10. This is a bore cleaner. We're gonna let that sit about 5 minutes so that it can work in the barrel and remove any carbon that's built up in there. So again, we're feeding this breech to muzzle. That swab you tied, this cotton patch here, where it's a knot, creates a 360-degree clean. Hopefully you can see that quite well. So in a single pass, you're hitting all areas of the barrel, unlike if you were to throw through a bow tie style square patch, the traditional method of cleaning. This is far more effective on each pass than those methods. So go wet patch, bronze brush. So bronze is softer than steel. It cannot harm your barrel or other components of your firearm. Like I said, we're gonna let this sit a moment. I'm gonna clean up these pins a little bit. I don't even know if we got this charging handle, so I'm gonna smack that a little bit. Normally it's captured, recoil or the charging handle springs and stuff don't get too much buildup, but with 22, a lot of stuff gets everywhere. That pin, that's the front pin. That's the middle one. This is the back. These aren't dirty. I just wanted to, make sure that they slide in nice and easy. Our bolt's looking nice. You'll notice I'm wiping the CLP off. It continues to break down carbon, and it will have a film on it once I've put this thing back together. I'm not wiping all of it off, just the surface area. Blast this with some CLP as well. No, I think this is dry enough to hit this with the dry lube. The dry lube here is fantastic. It was developed for things like trigger groups and things you don't want sand in. It was built purposely for the Iraq War, where there's a lot of sand in the environment. Goes on wet, dries extremely fast. This is not a rust preventative though, it's just a lubricant. So the exterior of the trigger group I'm going to hit with some FB10. I'm using it quite liberally. I don't believe I'm getting any in the trigger group. All right, that trigger group's ready to go, ready to be reinstalled. Charging handle spring is cleaned, lubricated, and ready to reinstall. Now we're going to run our bronze brush. You can run this through as many times as you see fit. I'm just going to run it a couple. One is probably sufficient in between patches. Then we're going to run a dry patch to pull out whatever this is broken loose in there. We're going to tie on another patch. For instructions on how to tie the Otis patch, you can refer to the instructions in your cleaning kit. There's pinch positions for each individual caliber, so each patch can clean multiple calibers. All right, and as you can see, there is a little bit of carbon buildup still there. So we're going to repeat the process of a wet patch with your bore cleaner or CLP of your choice, the bronze brush, and then a dry patch. The Otis cleaning patches can be used multiple times. So the wet patch we used before, you just select a different slit, pinch a new position, and when you tie the patch, you're exposing an all new cleaned surface that hasn't actually touched the bore yet. If you are using a solvent or bore cleaner of any kind, you do want to finish with a CLP or a lubricant that's going to stop that process that the solvent, you know, is breaking down the carbon and whatnot, because it will continue to eat, and it could eat metal. So always finish with your dry patch and then your bronze brush. And when you're finally done, you'll run one last wet patch through. So I'm going to run this brush here in just a minute, and then we'll get the reassembly. For the final ones, we're going to use the clean patches because we don't want to be, we want to see how much is left, and we want to make sure we're running a very clean patch for that final CLP patch. All right, we're making progress. Again, repeat the process. You guys are probably dying to see me reassemble this. Hopefully that's not what you came for, but we'll get there. All right, we're ready for our final patch with the CLP from Shooter's Choice. As you can see, we are very clean on that one. We'll do a couple more while you're on standby. All right, we mentioned while we were shooting that rimfire can have issues if you were to dry fire it. I inspected this pretty intensely with up close, and I didn't see any issues from dry fire strikes, which do occur with 1022s and semi-automatics that don't have a way to stop the firing pin from hitting. So anyway, this is pretty clean. Dry this up a little bit more. We're ready for reassembly. All right, reinsert your charging handle here. You just make sure that this spring is positioned where it's touching right there. You're gonna have to use two hands for this. You're going to pull back on it manually with your finger while you pull back on the outside with your hand to keep it positioned in there. Rock it back all the way. You're gonna reinsert the bolt, this pin forward up. This channel is where the spring rides. You want to drop it in flat, which is kind of the hardest part. All right, so you got to rock. When you're pulling that back, charging handle tends to pivot that spring slightly, and it helped to push down and push over to get it to capture. All right, so now that's in, we're ready to reinstall our trigger group. We punch them out towards the ejection port side, so we're going to put them in the opposite. Make sure your firearm is forward and your safety should be on. These holes line up pretty easily because I positioned them where I could find them. They're going to go back in to the same holes they came out of. That one right back in, no problem. That one's going to need a little love from my fancy hammer. I mean, this is just a nylon hammer. It's no different than the nylon hammer you get at the store, just a different shape. All right. All right, those are all flush now. Trigger's reinstalled. I'm gonna wipe off any additional fingerprints from the inside because we're not going to be back in here. So you want to touch it up with CLPs because your fingers have grease that can lead to corrosion. We're ready to put the stock back on. Make sure that your safety's in the middle again. Rear end first. Slides right in. grip and pivot, and tighten your screw down. We're not going to dry fire here because it's a rim fire. Your final step will be to wipe down the exterior of the firearm exterior barrel with some CLP. I like to use a lot of that, but we'll get her before she starts going down inside there. Probably should have gotten underneath her before I put it back together. I can just pop it back apart after the video and do that. And then we'll address the scope and optics and get this back to our good friend. There you have it, how to take down and clean a Ruger 1022, full disassembly and reassembly. I hope you liked this video. If you found it helpful, be sure to hit thumbs up and subscribe. I'm Jared, and thanks for watching.